was put to me once that the only true tool that the contemporary teacher has when trying to build a relational culture or climate around your classroom is our voice. And as such, it's probably worth just occasionally pausing to reflect upon the degree to which our voice is contributing to either a positive or a negative culture around our classrooms. And so what I want to put to you today is that the use of what I call affective statements is worth thinking about if you'd like to be able to build that culture with a sharp tool. Now, I want to pause on that moment because you probably noticed the odd little inflection that I put upon the word affective there. What I am talking about here is not effective statements, although I do think that the use of affective statements is very effective. The affective teaches us that what we're talking about here is the language of affect, the language of feelings. And when we can bring those into our everyday language, we do a wonderful job of teaching kids empathy. Let me explain to you how. The best example I can think of is by examining my old defaults. Now, in my old defaults, if I were to see a very low level behaviour happen, the kind that happens dozens and dozens, perhaps 50 to 100 times a day in a regular school day, such as somebody maybe dropping a piece of rubbish on the ground, my old default language would have been to say, pick that up. Yet what I do by understanding the way that affective statements can impact the behaviour of other people is I spend perhaps 1 or 2 more seconds on that moment, and my new default now is it disappoints me to see you do that, put it in the bin. Now you'll notice it's still a statement, it's still an instruction, but if you are like 99% of the population with a well-functioning limbic system in your brain, you probably heard me say the word disappointed the loudest. You see, the limbic system is the feeling centre of our brain and it helps us to socialise. It makes us notice when our behaviour impacts other people. And what we're building here, like I mentioned, is that notion of empathy. You see, you don't learn empathy formally, you learn it informally. So most of us, perhaps if we learned empathy from our family, can't remember the night that we were sat down to be given the empathy talk. What we remember was being exposed to a climate, a culture, a community that reminded you with regularity that your behaviour does affect others. And when you notice that it does, you should take responsibility and some sort of action as a result. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if these instances were to happen somewhere around the 50 to 100 range and you spend 1 to 2 seconds on them, we're talking about 2 or 3 minutes extra a day. But what we seize is multiple opportunities to not only teach the young person we're speaking to about empathy, but we're also seizing all of the opportunities that come from other people hearing us use that language too. This is when our informal approach to building a strong climate and culture becomes a reality because it's evident in our language. The greatest revealer of a climate or culture is the words that we use. I wonder if you can think about what your defaults are and whether a tiny shift, a tiny 1 or 2 second turn of the dial on your language could make a significant impact to the positivity of the culture in your classroom.